Now, President Tinubu's administration has just introduced another major reform in the education sector. Now, to help us with this, put this into perspective, we are joined by human resource and change management professional from, that's Professor Yomi Fawehinmi. Professor Yomi, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, we are wondering, how does how does the revised framework address cognitive load theory in its attempts to ease subject overload for students?
Okay, thanks, and thanks for having me. Part of the objective of this curriculum review, as was written in the press release by the Federal Ministry of Education, is the attempt to reduce the load. And based on the information available to the public, that reduction in load just translated to reduction in number of subjects. We're not yet aware of the fact that whether those reduction in number of subjects really translate to reduction in load. Because, for example, you can decide to match civics with social studies and call it one subject and say, oh, they're doing less number of subjects. Reduction in load is not just a function of the number of subjects, it's also a function of the content of those subjects, because what they have done is to compress the subject, but there's no assurance yet, because the details of the curriculum has not been released to show whether the content are reduced, streamlined, or whether the content even meets the requirements of the modern society, because this is the 21st century. So you're asking yourself, this new curriculum, is it really going to make a difference at the end of the day? Or what we have done is just to match subjects together and say, oh, yeah, there are fewer subjects, and then automatically say that means there's less load. There's no assurance that is going to happen.
Professor Yomi, do you think that the federal government actually had data to back up these changes? And what could these data have comprised of, especially noting that we are in a new age where attention is one factor to actually take note of when putting together curricula?
You asked a very great question. It's important for us to also put things in a little bit of perspective. Just January this year, no, I think January 1st, I know in the first quarter of this year, the National NERDC came up with a new curriculum for what we call trade subjects, 15 trade subjects. They developed that earlier in the first quarter of this year. Now, in August, we heard that there is a new curriculum. So you ask yourself that simple question: what exactly is happening? Somebody wrote on Twitter that this is the first time we are having a curriculum review in 15 years. And I'm like, that's not true. We have had many curriculum review. The problem always is the fact that there's no clear integration. And sometimes the quality of rigor that goes into it is not as deep as you expected. Now, that's one dimension of it, because curriculum is part of a value chain. The value chain starts with your constitution and the values of a country. Then you develop a curriculum that will help you to become that. That's why, for example, they will tell you, if you go to a French school, you become French. That's why a child born in France will go to a French school and they'll tell you, oh, the child was born in French, but the school will make him French. Now, is our curriculum going to make you a Nigerian? That's part of the question we need to ask. Now, between this curriculum and when it gets to the classroom, there are a minimum of 5 to 10 steps that we still need to do. School resumes in Nigeria in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We launch a curriculum today. There is no way any school will achieve those 5, 6, 7 steps before school starts in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So what is shared to me is that for many schools, there will not be a new curriculum. They'll follow the new curriculum. Let me tell you what I did today, just for you to understand the level of awareness about this new curriculum. I sent a survey to 10 people. About 7 of them were school owners, not principals, owners of schools and people in administration, and then media journalists. And I asked them, do they know anything about the new curriculum? Actually, some of them responded and said, is there a new curriculum? There was nobody that had seen this curriculum that we're talking about. And we expect our children in 2 to 3 weeks to use the curriculum to learn. Nobody is aware of the curriculum, the lesson plans, the lesson notes, the assignments to go with it, the textbooks to go with this curriculum. Who has written it? Who has published it? Where do you get it? There are parents who were preparing for school and had bought school books based on the last year's curriculum. Suddenly, will they go and buy new curriculum textbooks now? So the research into it is a bit not so much. Then the follow-up action after the release is not really very rigorous, because it's obvious somebody who is happy to announce the release of a curriculum 3 weeks to the resumption of a new academic session may not really understand what it takes to convert a curriculum to a lesson note. Because a curriculum is not what you teach your students.
Professor Yomi,
curriculum is part of the
Professor
value
Yomi,
chain.
Professor, I mean, that's a very interesting point
Yes.
that you should actually make there. And along with that, I just wanted to tell, like in certain Asian countries like Japan, their first stages are given to training in morals. And then after that, perhaps, let's say from primary 4, you start to learn calculations. But in Nigeria here, I'm wondering what kind of framework they've incorporated into this new curriculum. Have they thought about 21st century skills, for instance, like social media legitimacy and also social emotional learning, respect the African culture, how much of it has been infused into this curriculum? What do you think? What's your take on that?
That's a very great question. Thanks for asking. All that we got from the Federal Ministry of Education was a press release, the 2-page document that was signed and was released is it over the weekend or towards the end of last week. That's all that we have. I went to the NERDC. The NERDC is the government agency responsible for curriculum development at that lower level. The curriculum on the website that I saw today is the old curriculum. So as at now, we do not yet have the information on the contents of this new curriculum. Is not yet available to members of the public. And again, this is as of this afternoon speaking with you. They could upload it later today. I do not know. But what we currently have is that we only have a press release, a 2-page document. Now, whether they have inculcated issues about artificial intelligence, respect, dignity of labor, diversity, inclusion, the modern values, the ethos that make societies grow, we do not yet know, because the government, I mean, one of the interesting things about our information distribution system is how we don't disseminate the full information. What was the point releasing a press release without listing the subjects? Somebody could just have said, these are now the new subjects. They only said JSS will be taking X number of subjects, SSS will be taking X number of subjects. What will it cost to just have an appendix to list the subject, and we can see, oh, there is math, there is English, there is civics, or even some. Now, the next thing that needs to be done is that somebody needs to quickly do a scheme of work based on this curriculum, which should be the next or second or third stage after the release of the curriculum. So we don't know. They have not released all that information. And that's why I'm curious, does this minister expect this curriculum to guide teaching when school resumes the 2025-26 session in the next couple of weeks? Because it's not going to happen. There are parents that have bought books based on the old curriculum that they want to use for this session that will not go and buy new books. Interestingly, even the new curriculum, do we have the textbooks written already? No, we don't. So I'm not sure the plan is for this curriculum to start immediately, because the letter again did not state what is the kickoff date for the curriculum. So what I suspect is that schools will use the next 1 year, next 6 months to prepare for it. But I don't see any school changing the curriculum just based on the 2-letter document we got from the Federal Ministry of Education.
Yomi Fawehinmi, thank you very much for your very calculated responses to our questions here this afternoon. Thank you indeed.